Huh? Uh, just a minute. It's in my purse, right here. Jasmine balanced the receiver on her shoulder and stretched over the length of her bed and grabbed her heavy purse by its strap. Thankfully, the card was in the side pocket where she'd originally placed it. Okay, here it is, Jasmine said, holding the small card in her hand with her thumb. Bitte, how the card look? What did it look like? The inspector questioned. Huh? Like a small business card, white and black lettering, with Detective Rudolph Mueller and the telephone number underneath. Jasmine said, then flipped the card over and found the other side blank, and she flipped it to the front side again. This is not the card by us. We don't must use this card. We use the official card only. This is counterfeit. You can be sure, the inspector concluded. Jasmine gave him the name and numbers and had to listen when the inspector explained that even the office number was not an office exchange. But if all of this is so, then what is going to happen to my sister? Jasmine whispered harshly into the receiver. And who the hell is that guarding my door? That's when Jasmine explained slowly and carefully, quietly, what had been taking place over the past 2 weeks. She'd gotten to the part where the detective said he was going to be her representative in Munich for Jim's police case when the phone line went dead. Hello? Hello? Jasmine screamed. Jasmine stood frozen in place, holding onto the phone as if it could still help her. Her eyes tried to adjust to the darkness as she desperately searched for a weapon, a flashlight, a place to hide. My purse! Jasmine mumbled to the darkness, reminding herself that she had just about everything she needed there: pepper spray, a pocket knife. She knelt down and, using her sense of touch, she quickly felt the sturdy leather of her purse and snatched it up. The purse started to get lighter in weight, and Jasmine heard the sound of most of its contents spilling out on the floor since she hadn't had the chance to zip the zipper back up. Damn, Jasmine muttered, now dropping to her hands and knees when she heard someone trying to get in the door, bumping the chair twice firmly, and a third time with a bigger shove that Jasmine was sure had at least budged the chair. Jasmine felt around the floor quickly, and her hands brushed against paper debris, and then her fingertips touched her flashlight, and she grabbed it up quickly and held it to her chest. Instead of switching it on, someone, the policeman, bumped the door again, this time even harder, pushing their weight against it. Jasmine didn't want to be caught cornered in her bedroom. They would expect to find her there. She knew her apartment well enough, and her eyes had adjusted enough that she really didn't need the flashlight. As she made a mad dash towards the dining room, having to pass right in front of the door that was being forced to allow entry, her silk robe, the fabric as light as a scarf's, bellowing out behind from her nude body. For now, once in the kitchen, she felt more in control. At least she had immediate access to weapons in there. But she was in the open. Got to hide. Another loud bang at the door as the person persisted. This last time, the door let out a sickening loud crack. Jasmine wasn't panicked, just determined. Once she'd spotted what was her only hope of any sanctuary. With no time to waste, she grabbed the butcher's knife from the wooden knife block, looked down at her robe, and found she had no place to hide it. Boom! Jasmine glanced at the top half of the front door that seemed to fold in, and she opened the kitchen door by holding the knife in one hand and the small flashlight still shut off between her teeth. She stepped out into the biting chill of the cold March night, Persephone maneuvered the suitcase cart past the three counters, of which only two counters were operable, with a set of customs officials at the two. She watched with wan attention as the older couple, two buggies ahead of hers, were having their luggage searched. Turns out they tried to sneak 6 cartons of cigarettes and a 6 pack of Colt 45 into Germany. Persephone heard a commotion coming from the area near the escalators and near the luggage pickup area, and she and mostly everyone in the room turned her head in that direction to see what was happening. A small stampede of officials was up was passing up groups of people still waiting for all the pieces of the luggage, and the group appeared to be marching. As the group of helmet clad men neared her area, Persephone noticed they wore the same ugly moss green pants with goldish green shirts like the other custom inspectors, the difference being their uniforms were partially hidden under bulletproof vests, and instead of the usual caps, they wore helmets. Persephone looked behind her, and a wide eyed black woman that reminded her of Nell Carter looked at Persephone with surprise and more than a hint of fright. Damn, if they do this for some people with the marbles and Colt 45, what would they have done if she'd went ahead and tried to smuggle those 3 joints she'd left in her secret compartment at home? The group of over a dozen officials started to break off in pairs and threesomes to cover the main exit, and two were now checking passports of the people waiting to exit that door. There were now two people with their buggies in line ahead of Persephone. She'd noticed the two as being the same faces she'd smiled politely to in the first class section on the plane. The two uniformed men that now guarded the exit waved through an older white gentleman and didn't even notice at the burgundy colored German passports of the next couple whose luggage had been searched earlier. Persephone never considered herself a paranoid person, but it seemed as though she and Nell Carter were being watched, more like scrutinized by the guards. After waving through another person that held their passport ready for inspection and having it ignored, Persephone was beginning to think that these guys were just there to protect against terrorists and hadn't seen any black women before. Persephone didn't bother to show her passport to the customs official at the counter since he'd told her to step through with her buggy. One of the guards ordered Persephone to halt, which she did. She was thinking at that moment, "Oh shit," but smiled brightly and looked at the officer with a questioning tilt to her head. "Your passport, please," he asked evenly. Persephone handed him her passport and held her breath, waiting to be waved through like all those white people before her. Was this racially motivated? "You should follow me, please." The customs officer that now held her passport and what felt like her future in his hands gestured for her to follow him, which she did, but not before looking at a now wide eyed Nell looking on in amazement at Persephone being led away. All Persephone could think of was that her mother was saying about that wall coming down. "Jasmine Jackson, where are you?" Persephone kept repeating to herself.